Alright. This one was recommended by Yuko a while ago. Watching another one from Yuko. I used ultraviolence to solve crime in Shadows of Doubt. Break her fingers. I don't know what to expect from this. This is from another person I've never watched anything from, so let's you forgot you suggested this? Wow. I actually remembered something you suggested and you didn't? This is miracles can't happen. Oh my god. What the fuck? Are we in the Twilight Zone, y'all? What? Let's go.
Have you ever wanted to be a hard-boiled detective that solves crimes?
I don't know about hard-boiled.
Have you ever wanted to be a hard-boiled detective that
Hold on, I'm
solves
trying to
crimes?
get it to,
Maybe
there
one
we
who
go.
crawls through ventilation shafts and accidentally breaks into the wrong office, unintentionally commits corporate espionage, and shatters the security guard's jaw when he tries to stop you, handcuffing him to a
Does the
radiator
reality
before
check
making
need
a
tentacles?
swift escape through the window of a 14th floor apartment?
What in the...
Well, boy, you really have some stuff to work on. But in the meantime, we can simulate all of those things in Shadows of Doubt. This game offers a procedurally
I've heard of this
generated world
game,
with hundreds of unique
but I
citizens
don't remember
innocently going about
seeing
their
anything
lives
about it.
until one of them snaps and becomes a serial killer. As unlicensed detectives, we are the only people that can solve these crimes and bring their offenders to justice.
As
Can we save
unlicensed
the world from
detectives.
homicidal maniacs, or will we become one in the process? There's only one way to know, but first, a word from our sponsor. This video is sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends. It's an
Of course it is.
RPG PvP mobile phone lifestyle experience with over 80 million downloads, in-depth customization, and amazing graphics. Personally, I enjoy the boss battles. Sometimes I fight them in public, and when I lose, I scream and cry before slamming my head through some drywall. But it's all in good fun.
natural,
Speaking of fun, Raid wants us to play a
normal
game called
response,
Kiss, Marry,
really.
Kill using their roster of over 800 unique champions. I'll start by saying that I would kiss
Kitty.
Troglodyte because he is charming
Kitty.
and reminds me of myself. I would also marry Troglodyte for the exact
Wow.
same reasons.
Moving
Finally, I would
fast.
kill Shatterbones because his Precambrian facial characteristics and male pattern baldness intimidate me greatly. Also, you have until
Very
November 10th
intimidating.
to explore Raid's haunted cemetery for a chance to win in-game items and real-life prizes. Simply download Raid
Haunted-
using the links below, enter your
haunted
player ID
cemetery,
at
really?
this address, grab a shovel, and begin your career in grave robbing because there's over $20,000 worth of Amazon gift cards to be found, along with several powerful champions. Download Raid with the link in my
What?
description or the QR code to get all this free stuff and Epic Champion Talia.
That's a first.
Thank you,
I haven't-
Raid. Now
I
back to
haven't
the video.
seen-
We start by
I
generating
haven't seen
our
that
character
in one of the
city.
many
Everything in
Raid
Shadows of
sponsorships
Doubt
I've
is
seen on YouTube
disgusting
videos.
and caked in a thick layer of corruption. So naturally,
Raid is
I
already
used my
good at the
Discord
grave
server
robbing.
as the seed
Damn, Yuko.
phrase. For my character, a
Don't
white
hold
male
back.
named Reginald the Fist. More on that later. For now, let's begin. The city calls out to me like a cheap escort. She doesn't want
What?
me, but she needs me. It's constantly raining in an effort to shower these filthy streets clean, but it never works. This place is being choked by nihilism so hard that it's bulging at the eyes, dying a slow death, one citizen at a time. But that stops now. We spawn into a dirty alley as a high-masking autistic man who, judging by my surroundings,
This is better
also
advertisement for
probably
this game
homeless.
than
Perfect.
any
It's
trailer
just
or
like real
announcement
life.
I've seen,
I spent some time
'cause I
trying to get
barely
in
remembered
character
this
by
game.
rummaging through dumpsters and jeering at passers-by. Eventually, my character gets cold, and I have to huddle up next to someone who is almost certainly a sex offender for warmth. It was at this point I decided
damn.
I do not enjoy being homeless, and so I went out looking for work.
Yeah, it's,
I've never actually
I love
played this
it.
game before,
He's like,
so
you know what? I'm over here for warmth. Beside this 100% sex offender in a trench coat, ready to flash a park full of people. And it's just, you know, this isn't the life for me. And just leaves. Like, nope. Nope. I'm going to turn down another dark alley. Yeah. Yeah. That's how you make
my
decisions.
job search consisted mostly of me getting lost, accidentally breaking into a store, and also throwing bar stools at a janitor. Eventually,
sounds like
I found
my
a man who
general
looked
gameplay in
suspicious.
any
He's
game.
darting all over the road
Getting
in a way
lost,
that made me believe he's
offending
either
everybody,
a serial killer
killing
in a
everybody.
manic state, or he has just ingested a vial of amphetamines. Either way, I'm interested. I asked him for his fingerprints. He told me
high
to
on
piss
that
off
skooma?
before clearing his throat and running down the street as if he was trying to dodge a series of snipers. orders. Obviously, I followed him, and what I found was truly horrifying. The man climbed into the back of a food truck and began selling hamburgers. He's killing people alright, but he's doing it slowly and legally, so there's nothing we can do. I sunk into a pretty big depression after this and wandered my way to a nearby bar. As it turns out, this was my lucky break, because I found a bulletin board with several side jobs listed on it. Arresting a dangerous criminal, committing corporate espionage, and stalking people were all offered, but obviously I had to go with the fourth option, a note that simply read, humiliation, no questions asked, no questions answered, which was a great policy, because I really didn't want to know why the note was spattered with an unidentified white liquid. I called the number and they told me that at exactly 7:20 p.m. a payphone in the Thacker Street burger joint would ring, and I must answer it for further instructions. Quickly checking my watch, I notice it's already 7:20 p.m. I panic and begin sprinting to the burger joint, only to realize it was literally 10 feet across the street from where I started. The person I am working for is a fucking idiot. I answer the phone and my client explains that they have a target they want me to humiliate, and they've hidden a briefcase with the target's details somewhere inside the restaurant. Finding it was quite simple because I literally watched it spawn in. I took a seat at a booth and popped it open. This was when I realized my client must have recently survived a motorcycle accident because he clearly has catastrophic brain damage. Why do I say this? Because the only information they gave me about the target in this entire briefcase is that they are 27 with short black hair and that they work at the burger joint. That could be just about every Asian in town. Now, done with the suitcase, I throw it at a small child as hard as I can, but I miss. Damn it. Assuming that the target is even here in the first place, these descriptors narrow it down to this girl behind the counter. Our mission? Humiliate her by throwing food in her face and using our camera to take a photo of it. This will be easy, I thought to myself. So I purchased a random food item and launched it at her eyes. However, the item I purchased was scalding hot coffee, and I believe that upset her greatly because as I was fumbling with my camera, she jumped over the counter, pulled out a knife, and started stabbing me to death. As if this wasn't bad enough,
the whole place
else in the restaurant also began brandishing knives.
They said you scald one of us, you scald all of us.
Snapping photos of what was sure to be my final moments on this earth. At one point, a man even pulled a gun and attempted to blow my head off. However, he missed and shot an innocent bystander in the shoulder. This was where it got interesting, because this accidental homicide incensed the crowd further, and they entered into some kind of blood orgy and started stabbing each other wildly. I documented the entire thing from behind a couple of booths. Eventually, the mass hysteria became so extreme that it activated the security alarms and high-powered ceiling turrets began firing into the crowd indiscriminately. This was when I knew it was time to leave. I had done enough. Thankfully, while this was unfolding, someone was murdered, and for once, it wasn't my fault. Ladies and gentlemen, we have our first real case. The crime scene is at 903 Williams Park, so I ran there as fast as I could, which was actually very slowly. You see, someone in the diner stabbed me in the leg, and I can't afford a splint because I spent my only money buying a coffee to disfigure a young woman. So anyway, I limped my way there. I arrive at the destination and confirm it's the right place because it looks like a shithole.
One person got murdered.
I'm surprised it even took this long for someone to be murdered. The blood orgy in the store doesn't count. Floor, and after checking for witnesses, I sneak into the crime scene. It doesn't take me long to locate the body. This man has been beaten so viciously that I legitimately cannot identify any of his body parts, but I'm pretty sure he's wearing his glasses on his foot. I examine the body and learn that he's been killed with a pistol or revolver between 5:30 and 6:45. Above him, a message scrawled in his own blood. It reads, "Put a pin." I find a business card that completes the sentence. I don't know what it means, but I do know we're dealing with a real sicko here. My years of training kick in, and I immediately begin trying to locate his wife. When a man is murdered, it is always the wife. And unless our victim moonlights as a drag queen, these high heels and cherry red lipstick tell me he's got a woman. Actually, no. He doesn't. After doing some investigating, I came to the conclusion that his name is Mark Torres, and he's in a homosexual...
Hold on. Yeah. Reggie. I don't know how they pronounce it, but I'm just guessing. Reggie.
sexual relationship with a man named Devon Savoy. Who wears the lipstick? That's between them and their god. I dusted the entire apartment for prints, but there's nothing here. The killer is good, but I'm better. I just need to think. I pry open the door on the fridge, grab a gallon of milk, and begin chugging it to help me focus. Instead, it makes me nauseous and I vomit all over myself, thereby acquiring the smelly debuff. This one is annoying because if you're trying to sneak around, people will actually detect you because of how badly you stink. But one quick over-the-clothes shower later and we're back in business. I attempted to access Mark's computer.
That's how you save water. You take a shower with your clothes on.
But it's password protected. This note says his password is his year of birth. However, I genuinely have no idea when that is, and looking at his mangled body isn't giving me any clues. Fortunately, I think I know how to find out. He works in an office on the 10th floor of Swanson Parks. If I can break in, they should have his employee
fucking sentries
file,
everywhere.
which would
Don't
contain
throw a
his
coffee.
date of birth
They'll
and
activate.
his work computer. I slipped out of the crime scene and started making my way there. You may notice I have a lot more money than when I started. That's because I was stealing a lot of things from Mark's apartment. I arrive at the office after hours to find it empty, but protected by a series of security cameras and auto turrets. The doors are locked, but I've got an idea. I make my way to the woman's washroom where I find a ventilation duct, and after prying it open, I slide myself inside and begin crawling my way toward the office. After a considerable amount of aimless wandering, I find the vent into the office and lower myself down. Briefly fumbling around, I find the light switch and begin exploring, only to realize this isn't the office at all. Instead, I've just broken into a random woman's apartment in the middle of the night. In a panic, I scurry back into the air vent and make my escape. Eventually, I do find my way into the office, and after sneaking my way to the power box, I'm able to disable the security systems. Now
just accidentally breaking into some innocent woman's place.
Rifling through drawers and cabinets, stealing small change and lockpicks.
Just another night of the jab.
A troubling amount of what I can only assume is industrial strength methamphetamine. I also found some of this in Mark's apartment, but I didn't realize the problem was so widespread. We're dealing with an entire office full of meth heads. This case is getting dodgier by the second. After filling my inventory with crystal meth for evidence, I proceed to the manager's office. This is where Mark's
accidentally
file would be.
break in,
However,
accidentally
it's
rob.
locked. I attempt to smash through the window with a chair, but either the glass is too thick or the chair is too soft. So I settle for slithering my way into another ventilation duct. I use it to gain access to the main office and quickly locate Mark's file, and there it is, his birthday. From here, we sprint over to his computer, punch in the code, and begin scouring his emails for anything helpful. I found an email from a Nigerian prince begging for money, a message from his manager asking about explosions, collapses, depressurizations, but not dismemberments, and finally several emails from a gay dating website. I quickly double-checked that I hadn't accidentally logged into my own email. Unfortunately not. There's just nothing helpful here. It was also very stressful trying to figure this out at his desk, because every 5 minutes the cameras would turn back on, and I'd have to sprint to the breaker box before the turrets could begin shooting me to death. I think it's time to regroup and follow a new lead. First, we have to get out of this office. I work my way back into the air vents and quickly become lost. I spend so much time crawling around aimlessly that I actually start to develop hypothermia, and my character begins shaking violently. Luckily, we made it out before freezing to death. It's at this time I'd like to point out that in the process of breaking into that office and stealing their valuables, I committed approximately $15,000 worth of crimes. Fortunately, no one caught us, so the fines disappear as soon as we leave the building. Now, all of this hypothermia has got me pretty hungry, so I head over to a vending machine to buy some food. I needed to free up space in my inventory, so I decided to temporarily place this diamond ring on the ground until I can finish my meal. However, the very second I take out the ring, a jabbering homeless man rushes me with a knife and demands all of my money. I kindly explain that I stole this money fair and square, and he's not getting a cent from me. That's when the stabbing started. He chased me down the street and around a hot dog cart before I managed to climb a pile of boxes and get out of his reach. We were kind of at a stalemate here. He can't reach me, but I can't get away. I tried to get him to leave by bouncing coins off his forehead, but he wouldn't budge. Eventually, I made a break for it, and he chased me for about 3 blocks before I lost him in some kind of garbage room. At this point, I am both scared and confused. I've been stabbed multiple times, and I'm still no closer to solving my crime.
What the fuck?
Am I even a detective?
That
or am I just
I love
a homeless man who breaks into crime scenes to steal food and throw up on the carpet? I don't know. We can solve that mystery later. For now, I love
how that escalated so quickly,
He's
but
the spouse of our
no
victim,
one
and he's
reacted
also
to the
missing in
stabbing
action.
and the
Fairly
chasing.
suspicious. I used his business card to find his office, and upon entering, I was able to bribe the receptionist.
That's wild to me because the fucking blood orgy that happened after throwing that cup of coffee at that worker lady, and like everybody decided to just like fucking go insane and start whipping out weapons and beating the shit out of each other. And it's like over a cup of coffee. But his character is legit. Running for, 3 blocks? Being chased by a knife-wielding thief maniac. He's been stabbed and no reaction. Okay. That makes sense. Okay.
Give me a guest pass. After rifling through Devon's desk, I found his headshot, several unguarded coins, and a sync disc. Useful, but not incriminating. In case you're wondering what a sync disc is, it's basically a cybernetic augmentation.
Oh my god.
The one I stole from Devon is particularly creepy. It's called Bathroom Hygiene Inspector, because once you slot it in, you get paid $40 for every photo you take inside a public washroom, with a bonus if they're particularly dirty. Naturally, I had to have this, so I climbed inside this terrifying machine, installed the sync disc, and upgraded it fully. So we're now making
the coffee
$100
incident just
per
kept
photo. This was actually so
exploding in
lucrative, I
intensity.
briefly considered retiring from detective work to become a full-time bathroom creep. But it's not uncommon for women to respond violently when I take photos of them on the toilet. And you can only get shot in the head so many times before you realize that this job might not be working out.
Yeah,
so I made a few
everybody's
$100 and got
armed
back to
and
work.
dangerous,
Resuming
and
my investigation on Devon found me searching through the security tapes
will
at his
whip
office.
their
That's
shit
what
out.
happened. The murderer struck again. You
Then
see,
whip
in
it out.
Shadows of Doubt, there is only ever one active killer, and they strike every 24 hours, which is awful, but also gives us more evidence. So I sprinted through the snowy streets and made my way to Mariga Terrace. After taking the lift up, I find a hollow-eyed Asian man standing in the doorway. The hallway behind him is speckled with blood, and he's giving me a very authentic 1,000-yard stare. The police are doing something in the apartment, so I settle for interrogating this strange man while I wait for them to leave. His name is Yuka Harada, and he's actually very helpful. He gives me his fingerprint, a description of a suspicious person, and just as I'm about to ask him for some spare change, gunfire rings out. The police officers start shooting at Yuka and then slam the door in my face. He tries to escape and pull a panic alarm, to which the cop replies,
You're Chinese.
and shoots him in the back of the head. You see, cops do exist in this world, but from what I gather, their only purpose is to assault minorities. Perfect. It's just like real life. Anyway, I just observed 2 police officers gun down an innocent man and then pretend like nothing happened. And as the only witness, I was a little terrified. So I took the elevator downstairs, drank a bunch of mouthwash to calm my nerves, and then returned to the crime scene and let myself in. It's another grisly murder. This time, 43-year-old Dontrell Baldwin. Same murder weapon, time of death between 11 a.m. and 12 p.m. I dust the entire house for prints, check the phone records, and hack into the computer to search for evidence, but there's nothing at all. In an effort to focus myself, I open the fridge and begin eating a steak, only to realize it's raw and I forgot to cook it. Disgusting. I did find some mysterious objects laid out in his bedroom. It's either a collection of lawnmower blades or a small army of garden gnomes. Too early to say. While exploring the apartment, I decided to close the blinds for some privacy, and there it was, the killer's call sign, taunting me mercilessly, like all of those people that actually graduated high school. I sat down and tried to profile our criminal. Perhaps a jealous neighbor driven mad over Dontrell's impressive collection of lawn ornaments. Or maybe a call girl looking for a little extra cash. It probably wasn't the spouse because they were being very cooperative. That's when it dawned on me. Could the police be in on it? As soon as someone finally started giving me some answers, they ventilated his skull at point-blank range. Something stinks here, and for once, it's not me. When solving crimes, it's important to look for patterns. So I looked very hard and found only 2 things in common between the victims. 1, they are both in homosexual relationships, and 2, they're co-workers. I like the idea of a homophobic serial killer, but short of going undercover as a power bottom, I wasn't sure how to pursue this lead. So instead, we focused on the workplace connection. It's day 2 of the investigation, and I was a little confused on how to proceed. I've already investigated Dontrell's workplace, and I'm not going to lie, I spent most of the day getting beat up in public washrooms. It's all kind of a blur. I think at one point I punched a child. Eventually, I emerged from this
as soon as he
state
threw
on a
that
bench
cup
outside
of coffee,
Commerce
like it
Inc.
just went
I've been
downhill.
waiting here for the past 13 hours without interruption in an effort to find Devon Savoy. His work schedule says he'll be here any second, and look at that, there he is, unlocking the office door and briefly quantum tunneling through reality. I interrogated him, and he was definitely suspicious.
pulling off
I
some
asked him
moves
about
there.
Mark, and he refused to make eye contact with me, so I began shaking with both rage and hypothermia, a deadly mix. Eventually, I let him go about his workday while I stalked him through the office. That's when it came over the radio. Another murder. This time at 1201 Williams Park. I'll deal with you later. I rushed to the crime scene as fast as I could. Last time, law enforcement beat us to it and contaminated the evidence. We can't let that happen again. Unfortunately, we were too slow. Probably because of all of the stolen goods I've been hauling around in my personal evidence locker. Either way, this caused me to enter a blind
that
rage, and
that
I
might
used
have
my
had something to
knuckles
do with
as
it.
tools
Maybe
of
a little
holy
bit.
righteousness to beat the police officer into a coma. Just for good measure, I also handcuffed him. I began scanning for blood and footprints, but after ramming the policeman's head through a tube television, the crime scene became somewhat contaminated. Fortunately, the bedroom was relatively pristine along with the body. It's Winton Goolsby, CEO of Cotton Inc., the same company Mark and Dontrell worked for. Someone is knocking off the upper management. First, the head of HR, then marketing, and now the CEO. Who could it be? Competition? Jaded employee? Maybe even me in some kind of violent drug binge? Only time will tell. I searched the apartment to find the following: fresh footprints from a size 12 woman's heel, a singular 8mm cartridge, and finally a new sync disk. This one allows you to make money by installing data mining software on work computers. Winton Goolsby, you naughty, naughty boy. This was all helpful, but we really cracked the case wide open after I infiltrated the apartment building's security office. Here I can access the cameras for every floor of the building, and luckily there's one with a good view of Winton's unit. He died around lunchtime, so I scrubbed through the footage and found a few potential candidates. However, one stuck out in particular: Andrea Narayan. Why do I know this name? Everyone else was just unidentified citizen. That's when it hit me. I know Andrea because I took a Polaroid of her on the toilet at Cotton Inc. If she works at that office, that means she knows all 3 victims, and we have her on tape entering and leaving Winton's apartment around the time of the murder. This is very good. I printed out a photo of Andrea and began building a profile for her on the tack board. According to her work schedule, she should be at the office right now, which gives us the perfect opportunity to break into her apartment and begin stealing things. I suppose we can also try to solve the crime while we're there.
I love
too.
how in
501
between all the
North
thievery,
Building.
the
This is
breaking
it. I
in,
dimmed lights and kicked the
hot
door off
coffee,
its
blood
hinges. I
orgies,
began
and
exploring, and
stabbings.
judging by the way she decorates her
It's like,
apartment,
we
I
might
already
solve a
know
crime.
she's a psychopath.
Maybe.
Red leather on a green carpet. Doctor, lobotomize this woman immediately. However, even more
Bathroom people
diagnostic
is the
than the poor
God damn
decor
it,
was
Hugo.
this crumpled up piece of paper I found. It describes a woman tying a man to a chair and dancing around waving a knife in his face while he begs for his life. This, on its own, would be suspicious. However, it's not on its own, because there are hundreds of these notes all over her apartment. On the couch, in the cabinet, bathroom sink,
Goddamn.
random drawers, inside the oven, running shower, and of
What?
course, there was about 24 inside the fridge. Each
Why?
one reading the exact same thing. This bitch is definitely killing people. Oh, and I also found some 8mm
Why?
ammunition
Why?
that fits the murder weapon.
Was
Now
there
look,
nowhere
I'm 99%
else to put them?
sure
What?
this is our killer, but I'm a by-the-books kind of guy, so I want to catch her in the act. It's not a sexual thing. I just really need to be sure it's her. Mostly because I get fined
Right,
pretty heavily
right.
for arresting the wrong people, and I worked too hard to make this money just to lose it on some psycho
worked
bitch with a photocopier. So here's
worked
what I do.
really
I go to a
hard
vending
for that
machine
money.
and purchase a GPS tracker. I'm going to put this on Andrea and monitor her movements throughout the day, because much like a Nigerian prince has a physiological need to steal my credit card information, Andrea has a need to kill someone every single day.
Will someone
However,
ever
this time
answer that
I'll be ready,
Nigerian
following
prince?
behind her every step of the way, right until she breaks into an apartment, at which point I'll smash her head in with a dumbbell, find
What?
the murder weapon, and haul her off to jail. But first, we need to get the tracker on her, so I hung around her apartment building until she entered her home. Then, I knock on the door and back up all the way across the hall and into the elevator, which gives me the maximal possible runway. Just as I hear her begin to unlock the door, I sprint towards it, jump into the air, and slam both of my feet into it at the same
What the-
time. The door smashes into Andrea's skull
Oh my
and
God.
renders her instantly unconscious. She'll wake up in a few hours
What
thinking
the
she's just
fuck?
been hit by a sledgehammer, but apart from that, she'll be
Jeez.
fine. I place the tracker
What?
on her and escape to a nearby diner. From here, I can monitor her exact
That's a legit
movements,
thing
not
you can
just
get
through
away
the
with?
city, but
Oh
even
my
throughout her own
God.
apartment. For example, she's currently in her washroom checking to see how
That's
many
more
teeth she's
surprising
missing.
than
So here's the plan. I'm going to sit in this
the
diner
hot
and
coffee
monitor
blood
Andrea
orgy
for the next
incident.
24 hours. However, the 24-hour cycle in this this game is pretty long, so we'll be taking micro naps in 15-minute increments and checking on her position in between. Hopefully that's not enough time for her to murder anyone. The plan was actually working very well. I started shift at 7 p.m. and midnight came and went without any trouble. 1 a.m., 2, 3, 4, I made it to 8:45 and still no movement. She'll be going to work soon. I'm starting to think I was wrong about Andrea, and that's when it happened. I took another nap, woke up at 9 a.m. and she's on the move. Her GPS signal is leading me to this building. It's not her apartment and it's not her work. 9:13 a.m. Williams Park, 3rd floor. I catch up to find her standing outside the door of someone's apartment. She's in some kind of a daze, and after snapping a few photos for evidence, I managed to sneak past her and enter the flat. That's when I find it, the next victim. We're too late, and Andrea rushes past me and attempts to escape. Not this time. I grab a tea kettle from the stove and beam it off the back of her head like a baseball. She falls like a sack of potatoes, and before she can recover from yet another traumatic brain injury,
there's so many brain injuries.
Handcuffs. We've got our killer, and she even still has the murder weapon in her inventory. I leave Andrea cuffed up in the hallway while I head to City Hall to turn the case in. You might be worried she'll escape, but I'm pretty sure she can't even walk anymore after taking that tea kettle to the head. After filling out the arrest form, we hand the case in and wait for our results. Apparently, I fucked up the paperwork a bit, but most importantly, we arrested the right person, and as a reward, we received $1,700 and our social credit increases, which means the Communist Party will stop putting estrogen in my water supply. What a shame. Oh, and in case you're wondering about the police officer we assaulted at Winton Goulby's apartment, yeah, I'm pretty sure he's dead. I turned off all the lights and left him handcuffed in the living room. Regardless, the streets are safer and the world has us to thank for it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Finally, don't forget to install Raid using the links below to get all this cool stuff. Alright, see you later.
What? That's a motherfucking trip. Oh my god. That's crazy. Like, the way I vaguely even remember this game as a thing, and this video has just like sold it more to me than any big production trailer reveal thing. Like, what the fuck? Like, seriously, like, you throw a cup of coffee at a worker and it turns into a blood orgy with turrets from the fucking ceiling it's bloodbath. It's bloodbath. Like, fucking hell. All randomly generated too? Damn. I would have to check that game out. I can't buy any games right now because I'm trying not to spend my money too much so I can get my PC, a brand new PC sooner. But that's definitely going on my wish list.